This is Andrew, aka Mr. Earth to Birth, and I'm here at the Oklahoma Democratic Convention, and I'm here with Michelle Deatrick, the DNC Climate Chair. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me. So I want
It's
to
a
start
pleasure.
by talking about your points on the panel about the big ugly bill and talking about the $1.1 billion subsidies to fossil fuel industry. There's a lot of talk about this bill. For people who aren't very familiar with it, what are some of the big environmental highlights in this bill that you think are most problematic?
I think I'll call them low lights, dark lights. Well, the subsidies to oil and gas in the Senate bill are terrible. There's a really horrible attack on the green energy tax credits, which do things that are wildly popular with like over 70% of Oklahoma voters actually, which is credits for putting solar panels on your home, for weatherizing your home. And the credits for doing that for nonprofits like mosques and church and synagogues, and for governmental entities. So those are win-win policies, right? It saves people money and it helps with climate because it reduces our energy use. It's like, so the tax on the EV tax credits, which coming from an auto manufacturing state, Michigan, is wildly unpopular there because we're moving into creating the cars of the future. And I have a hybrid, but whether or not that's your thing, we need to be able to compete with China and other countries as they move into that field. So, and there's terrible cuts to, FEMA, the USDA, National Weather Service. Just Tuesday, DOD, the Department of Defense, stopped reporting some of the key data that hurricane forecasters need. We're still collecting it from the satellites, but they're not going to report it so that we can prepare for hurricanes. Right. It's cruel, it's reckless, and it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note of FEMA, we've seen just this year alone several states be questioned or even rejected outright their emergency support that they needed when it came to North Carolina and Arkansas and these different extreme weather. As extreme weather like this is increasing, what are our options to protect those services for people? Because if they're going to take away that relief, what other alternatives do we actually have?
So I would say first, right now, fight back. We still can fight back. In fact, if you go to dncclimate.org, what'll pop up is a call your senator or write to your senator to oppose these things. And also there's a petition to stop the firings of the federal workers. So keep fighting. And then I would say next, this is a very complicated question, but be sure that we get the stories out there of what I'm very afraid are going to be tragic and horrible things and actually lives lost as a result. We have to share the stories with respect and honor those experiences, but also make sure we tie it back to who is responsible. And then, states are being left on their own. And you think about a state like, I don't know, Delaware or Rhode Island, they're supposed to have their own huge disaster response. Right. It's just not, it's not realistic, and it's being cut off so quickly. So I'm hoping that states may form coalitions to kind of deal with this, but mostly we just got to fight back with everything we have.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I've also seen is we're seeing a lot of talk about millions of acres of some of our most pristine land, especially when we look into like the Pacific Northwest being opened back up to industry or energy exploration. It feels with so many things environmental that these are such uphill battles, and that once we lose a certain battle, like opening that land up, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. What is the likelihood right now that we can or stop that from moving forward? And if we can't, where becomes the alternatives of still protecting that land? Do the states have any alternatives to really question and fight the federal government if they do open that land? Stuff like that.
Once again, it's about the organizing and the movement, amplifying it, not letting it become normalized, and calling out the results as it happens. Right. States don't have, to my knowledge, a lot of ways to fight back on these federal issues, except for things like regulating sizes of trucks on roads. In states where you have Democrats in charge, that can be done. But it's also wildly unpopular. 71% of Oklahomans support renewable energy on public land. 71% do not support massive clear cutting
Right.
and drilling and extraction and things that are damaging to the land. So the fight has to be there. And then I think we got to win the midterms.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's electing Democrats is absolutely key. And if we can take back that control in Congress to help put a stop to this, and then putting everything we've got into winning again the presidency and the White House, and then reversing that. It took 4 years of Biden in the White House. We hadn't completely rolled back all the terrible things Trump one did. It
Right.
will be long.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned, the midterms, and when it comes to supporting candidates, one thing, if you talk to conservatives or Republicans, they talk about the hypocrisy on the Democratic side. So when we're talking about environmentalism in particular, when it comes to fossil fuels, donating to both sides of the party, where is the climate committee working with? Where are you guys focused on prioritizing that within the party and holding those politicians accountable that are still taking money from fossil fuels?
So, well, when I ran for office, I took the no fossil fuel subsidy pledge. I still think it's a great thing that came out of Climate Hawk's vote. So we worked to put good climate policy front and center. We have a policy agenda on our website. We've worked to get that into the Democratic Party platform. And we also work to educate candidates because candidates are asked to become experts on a wide range of things.
Right.
And they do get a lot of disinformation from the fossil fuel industry. So we're working very hard. And that's especially important right now with data centers, which have impacts for climate, but also for water quality, how much people are paying for energy, and they are just skyrocketing. So
Right.
we are partners with many other organizations, to be clear, who are doing terrific work on this issue, which I think is key, and trying to ensure that our Democratic legislators and candidates are aware on it. Yes, we have work to do in the Democratic Party on climate. We do not do all of the things that we need to do. We do not take all the stands that we need to. I am grateful that it took me and others 2 years of organizing to get the Climate Council approved. And I'm grateful we now have an entity within the National Party that is working to educate and inform. So
Absolutely, yeah. So again, I mentioned, environmentalism can feel so negative and pessimistic because we're fighting so many uphill battles. What is your biggest optimistic thought right now? Where do you feel like our biggest victory might be? Even something that might be getting lost in the weeds of all the negative news, things like that.
well, solar energy and wind energy are cheaper than ever, right?
Absolutely.
And so there is that marketplace. I mean, things are happening, I don't know, naturally in the marketplace, which is why these huge subsidies, these huge additional subsidies to oil and gas are so potentially damaging,
Right.
right? So there's that. There's the fact that there's a huge surge of interest within the Democratic Party. In organizing around climate and environment.
Right.
And I think it's partly because, as I mentioned in the panel earlier, I don't need to tell you that, the extreme weather events and all of these things are very much in people's minds. Almost everyone has felt an impact or someone in their family has. But so seeing that surge of interest, and from state party leaders, from national party leaders, from candidates, having congressional candidates contact me and say, what should I be thinking about on this issue? That's huge. It does give me hope. And also, I think people are realizing how important this is with the crucial youth vote, which, youth turnout was horrific,
Right.
almost everywhere in November. That's got to change. It's an issue that matters to them. Although, fun fact, the second largest group of climate voters, people who name it as one of their top 2 issues, 65 and older.
Really?
Especially women of color.
Interesting.
And we don't really yet, this is sort of a new finding. We don't
Yeah.
really understand it yet. We think it's maybe the grandmother effect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That's all I have. Do you have any last words or, words of hope and encouragement for Oklahoma or the nation?
Yeah. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, progress is not quick. It takes a long time, and we have to keep going. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It is the issue of our generation, and it is our duty and our privilege, and in some ways an honor, that we get to fight for something that matters so much, and we have to keep sight of it.
Absolutely. Michelle Deatrick,
Thank you
so much.
Thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
it.
It's a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much. Thanks for
Pleasure
being in
meeting you,
Oklahoma.
and
Absolutely.
pleasure getting to be familiar with your work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I
You
appreciate
write great
it.
articles.
Thank
I
you.
mean,